A big hello and welcome. It's Kate from Zen Stitching, and I'm super excited to join you today for another one of our artist chats for the Making Zen online retreat series. Today, I'm super excited to be chatting with Lisa Agaran. And hello and welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and thank you for inviting me back. So I'm excited.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's lovely to have you back and to be working with us. I know that what you created for the last Making Zen online retreat was absolutely delightful, and I'm super excited to dive into what you're going to be sharing with us for this retreat as well.
Me too. Me too.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Me too. And I want to do a deep dive and go straight to the project that you're going to be sharing with us. But I think it's always really nice for people to get to know you and your some of your creative journey and some of the kind of things that inspire you and just make you tick, so to speak. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you found your way into your current artistic practice.
Well, it's been quite a journey because it's sort of been like sort of up and down, in and out of doing art, not doing it. So I was always creative as a kid. And then when I started as a painter, I was doing traditional oils, landscapes, the traditional stuff like still lifes. And then as I was pursuing an art major, I had a teacher say, well, you can't make money being an artist. You should be a graphic designer, which is what I did. And I did that for almost 20 years and actually graduated with a bachelor's in graphic design. And, the thing about graphic design is creative, but it kind of takes the soul and the spirit out of it. So I went completely different direction. I got my master's in psychology, worked as a therapist. I was still working with creative people, but I wasn't doing my own art. And eventually I got to a point where I really need to do my own art. So I closed my private practice as a therapist and went in the deep end, did mix, actually taught myself mixed media because I was always gravitating towards that sort of style. And I pursued an art career and then later started teaching mixed media. And fast forward, now I'm here, I have a lot of online courses, but the thing that really is passion for me right now and inspiration is utilizing our art practice as a form of meditation, self-care, getting us to a place of center, which is something that we need right now. So that's really where I'm excited about and integrating some of what I teach into my art classes. Yeah.
Yes, which is so perfect for Making Zen, where we're really focusing on not only the
Exactly.
creativity, but the benefits that creativity bring as well.
Yeah. And I think we have a tendency to forget that because we get so excited and immersed in the project and finishing the project. So we forget that, just doing the simplest thing, like just stitching, like that's what I love about your type of stitching is it's very meditative and
Mm.
it gives you a moment of stillness, a moment to pause and take a breath. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is magical because I find it's something that is just so enjoyable. And so it's wonderful that something that's so enjoyable has so many benefits on so many different levels.
Exactly. Exactly. And I know for me, when I'm not having such a good day or if I'm stressed, it's like creativity is asking me to go there, like go to the studio, do something creative. It's like your body, your spirit starts to crave it when you don't do it for a long period of time.
It's so true. Isn't it interesting how just doing, and it only needs to be 5 minutes, but that kind of is just so important for us. And yet at the same point in time, a lot of us, and myself included, have a tendency to put the fun stuff, which is like the making and the creativity, at the bottom of the list rather
I
than
know.
making a priority and putting it at the top of the list.
Exactly. And I always say when we think of taking care of ourselves, we get make sure we get enough sleep, we try to eat right, we try to get some exercise, we take our supplements, but we don't think of, well, maybe I should have an hour of creativity in that wellness routine. We don't seem to think that way. So, yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love how you kind of tied that in with the holistic approach because yes, most of us are familiar with all those other things that we need to do to enrich our lives and make sure that we're living our best lives possible. But to also include the creativity side as well. It's almost like you need not a creative pill, but that kind of idea where, it's part of that routine
Right.
whenever you do it, like if it's in the morning or the afternoon or evening.
Exactly. A daily dose of creativity.
Yes, yes, I love it. It's got such good visuals. Would you pour it into a drink and mix it, or would you just take it as a
Exactly.
tablet?
A little elixir. Exactly.
Or is it something like this where you just rub it on and go, oh yes, creativity?
I have a little essential oil called Creative Juice,
Mhm.
and I just love that. It's part of my ritual when I go into the studio. I um, put it in a little diffuser, and it just gets me in that sort of that mindset of, oh, I'm going to approach creativity or this moment of creating. But I love that it's called Creative Juice.
I love that too. Is that a blend that you've put together or you've found it out there?
I found it out there.
Ooh, we might have to find out more about that because I'm very interested in the essential oils and
Mhm.
just how smell can be so evocative and so beneficial on so many levels
Oh,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
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 Oh, how much fun. Well, I love hearing all about this, Lisa, and it sounds like you have a daily artist practice.
I try my best, not all the time, but I do try to keep it going regularly, at least every other day or a couple times a week. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of tips do you have, or how do you incorporate it so that it is part of your um, self-care ritual?
Keep it small and simple. And separate the two. Of course, you're always going to have your projects that you want to return to and finish, or you always have your ideas that you want to execute. But I think of an art practice or something that you do on a regular basis as something smaller. Like it could be, I love doing Asemic writing. I also do the stitching, where right now I'm working on a scroll where I'm doing Asemic writing with the stitches. So it's very simple. Or even if putting watercolor on a little piece of watercolor paper with doodling, collaging, very simple stuff, because that it doesn't have to be this big project. And I think we have a tendency to set our mind on, okay, I'm going to do something creative right now, and it's got to be this big thing. But even the smallest art practice can actually give you those benefits, the same benefits of stillness and pause and mindfulness. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really nice way of looking at it. I think when it's, like you say, in smaller chunks, it's much more approachable and much easier to include into our lives because we're all busy and we don't have huge chunks of time to
Exactly.
spend creating. And sometimes, because, like you say, we have this idea to create something grand, which means we think we need lots of time. And then it gets put to one side because we never do have the
Exactly.
time. So I love it. It's brilliant advice to keep it small and keep it simple.
And that's a really good point, because when it becomes too grand and too big, we're already overwhelmed by the idea of it, and then we procrastinate or we put it off, just like you said. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Ah, such wise words of wisdom. I love it. And thinking about that, when you are doing your working in your studio, what do you do on the days where you might find it difficult to get into the creative flow or find it difficult to get set that inspiration for the day?
That's a really good question, because I think a lot of people struggle with that. It's like even entering the space can be a struggle, right? I had a student who would say she would pause at the doorway and then continue walking because there was so much pressure already.
Mm.
I say start a warm up, and that means, even if that means looking through a pile of fabric scraps or collage scraps, that starts to get your creative juices going, or you work small, nothing with big expectations, something that you can just be loose on. I consider that a warm up.
Mm.
Or you can also start a ritual, which I think is important because I would like light a candle, burn essential oil, put some music on, get a cup of tea. And when you go through these rituals, it starts to tell your mind or your body, oh, I'm getting ready to create. And
Mm.
that kind of helps you ease into the creative process.
Oh, that's lovely. That's a great way of doing it. And I think also, like you say, when you're doing those rituals, you build up anticipation for it too, don't you? Because quite often it's a smell that you really like if you're working with essential oils, and it's generally your favorite cup of whatever you like to drink, and kind of just helping get you looking forward to the experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm curious because I love how you said just dipping into your collage or dipping into your fabric scraps. So, what does your workspace look like? Do you have boxes of these things around or?
Yes, I do. I try to put everything where I know I can go to if I need something. So they are in boxes, or I have a lot of boxes, a lot of baskets. So, but when I get really into the creative flow, everything is all over the place. So it's not like an organized, neat artist. The more immersed I am, the messier it gets.
I think as artists, we have to embrace that mess, don't we? Because that's the creative chaos, and that's where the
Yeah,
interesting things start to come together. Because we do have all of these things in our periphery that we start putting together in ways that perhaps we wouldn't if they were tidied away and behind closed doors, so to speak.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I always think there's like creative gems buried under the pile, and sometimes we need to rediscover them to get new inspiration.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I love that you say that because I'm changing the way I think about my scrap boxes. So instead of calling them scrap boxes, they're now my treasure boxes because
Yes.
that's where all the treasures are. Like you just never know what inspiration you're going to find when you start rummaging through them all.
Exactly. Exactly. That's cool. I love that.
I know it is. It's so much fun. And just thinking one more thing, because I'm always curious to know how people like to organize their bits and pieces. When you say you put them in baskets and boxes and things, are they see-through or are they beautiful fabric baskets or are they shoe boxes? What kind of storage do you like to use?
Well, I have some of my jelly prints, my collage material are in these black boxes right here.
Oh, yes.
I have some of I'm going to try to point this. I have some of my embroidery stuff, some of my fabrics up here. I also have some see-through plastic bins on the side that actually have some bigger pieces of fabric. But I like the see-through because that gives me a sense of, because we are visual, it gives me a sense of what's in there.
Mm.
I always have a tendency to forget.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yes, I must admit I like the transparency myself too because you can see what's there and I think sometimes even though I made a point of having some beautifully labeled cardboard boxes because I couldn't see what's in them, they kind of this barrier.
exactly.
You just don't know. It's just not inviting. So that's where
Oh
the
no.
visuals of the transparency is really, really great.
Yeah.
And so, thank you so much for sharing that because I'm just curious as another artist and how you like to organize your space because that's something I'm always looking for ways to make it easier. And I'm sure there are other people out there too who are looking on how to streamline their creative process.
Yeah, because it's really hard. If you're a visual person, you do need stuff to be in your peripheral, but you can't always do that. And it's just coming up with creative ways so that you can see what's in there versus forget about it.
Yes,
Out of
exactly.
sight, out of mind.
Exactly. I know. Tidying up is so bad for me.
I know.
Oh dear, I love it. And thank you for sharing that. So, and I'm curious to know because you say that you've transitioned from teaching art to others or being around others who were making art, but you didn't have the time or the space to make art, and now you are making art. How do you balance that with the other demands of everyday life?
Well, there during the pandemic changed everything. I was teaching primarily in-person workshops and retreats, and then the pandemic sort of forced everything to be on Zoom, and it also kind of forced what I taught to be on smaller scale to actually, I mean, it was just a different form of creativity, like what can people get access to?
Mm.
And so a lot of the artwork started to change because I used to teach people how to do it on, larger wood panels, art panels. And what I then started teaching on Zoom was more like art books or art journals or handmade, garlands. So it really shifted, and then it shifted my art making as well.
Mm.
So
And
yeah.
how do you find that you make time for your art during the day? Because we all have other things that we also need to fit in, eating, sleeping, all those
Yeah,
kinds of
I
things.
think one of my favorite things to do is get up early in the morning and just go straight to the work table. Of course, cup of coffee. That's the number one thing. Cup of coffee. And then I just put on music and I work on the piece that's still in progress. And that is one of my favorite things to do, is to
Mm,
get up before the world gets up.
mm. Yes, and kind of fill your soul.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I love hearing that. It's really interesting to hear about how you're talking about your creative process and how it changed through the pandemic to much smaller, easier to manage articles and items on Zoom. I'd love to see what are you going to be sharing with us for the Making Zen
Well,
online retreat?
I'm actually going to be teaching weaving remnants with intention. And it is a weave that actually I'm going to walk you through on how to create a loom on watercolor paper.
Mm.
And then we get to weave different materials like sari ribbon, um, jelly prints, collage papers, embroidery. I've also like braided embroidery flossed, and you can pretty much weave anything into the loom. Uh, Dried flowers and stuff like that. So I'm excited about that because it's just fun. And what's fun is like you get to gather all this materials before the project, and then once you start weaving it together, it just starts to come to life.
Mm. Oh, I love
Yeah.
it. I love how you're integrating weaving with watercolor as well and watercolor paper.
Hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like so much fun. I love it. And I also think you have some other images that you wanted to share with us.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wanted to just show you a few of my pieces and kind of walk you through a little bit about my evolution. So when I started out as a artist, I was doing a lot of gallery art to hang on the wall. And then when the pandemic hit, I started exploring art journaling, right, which is a different form of art making. And this is what I call my wabi sabi art journals. These are some of the pages in my art journals. And
Very beautiful.
I love just incorporating, this is a combination of watercolor, collage papers. Sometimes I'll put little stitching in there. And I love also incorporating photography. This is some of my own photography. I will incorporate that into my art journal as well. Fabrics. And what's cool about these art journals is that I can I can just explore all kinds of different techniques.
Mm,
So, and one of the things I love to do is add stitching to the paper and cheesecloth to the paper. So, and then it's like I was introduced. I want to do a shout out to Beatrice Helton. She is an artist that makes these amazing handmade mini books. And she introduced me to this idea. So it's almost like my art started getting smaller and smaller. And these are mini books that I've created. She's totally inspired me to do this. And I got kind of hooked on this. And, you know, as I talked about working small, this is perfect in terms of working small.
mm,
So this is kind of what I did. Yeah. And I love
gorgeous.
this too. And anything goes in these little books. That's what I love about these mini books. Yeah.
They're beautiful. I love seeing those. Thank you for sharing that.
And then, one more thing. I started going into um, making vessels out of fabrics. And that was another thing that I started doing too during the pandemic. So that was just something I wanted to show you. But I do want to show you a few samples of what I'll be teaching during Making Zen, and just to get a little bit of eye candy out there so that you can get excited about the project I'll be teaching.
Mm.
So, so
Oh,
that's
this is
it.
fun. Thank you so much. So, looking at
Awesome.
that, I
Oh,
could
oh,
see there were bits of watercolored paper. It looked like pieces of torn up text, I think it
yes.
was.
Text
And
papers. Mm-hmm.
mm, beautiful.
Yeah, anything you want can go in there, which is part of the fun of it. I've even put like pieces of fabric where you could actually tear the fabric and put stitching in the fabric. It's really up to you what you love to work with and what you end up collecting for your materials. Yeah,
Mm. So you can really make it your own, and it's kind of like a
exactly.
nice way of weaving all of these things together that resonate with you.
Hmm. Exactly.
It's
Yes.
lovely. Well, thank you so much for sharing. They're so beautiful. And I can see just how inspiring that is going to be for everyone to start playing with watercolor paper, start looking at items around that they
Hmm.
would like to weave into those looms, mini looms, I guess you could call them. It's a really fun way of combining a couple of different techniques.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we originally were talking about in terms of going back to those piles of scraps that you think you forgot, and now you can think, oh, I can use that for this project, right? And it kind of gets that creative inspiration going again. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I love it. Oh, so much fun. So much fun. And it's curious. Oh, I'm curious, Lisa, from all of your experience to get you where you are today, what do you think is a piece of advice that you wish someone had given you when you were first starting out?
One of the most important things is I believe everyone's creative. And if you have an inkling to be creative or do something creative, do it for yourself first. Don't do it with the expectations of I'm going to sell it or this has to be a masterpiece or it has to be perfect. Do it because you enjoy it and it brings you joy. And I say just go for it, and explore what creative inspiration is calling you to. Yes,
Yes, that's true. It's always creating from the heart, isn't it? And
exactly.
if you create from the heart, then other people resonate with that too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Such wise words. Thank you so much. And I'm curious to know because this is something that comes up again and again and again in conversations, the whole idea of a mistake, which I think we really should reframe our understanding of what a mistake is, and that is
Hmm.
an opportunity for learning,
Hmm.
rather than having a fear of making a mistake. And I'm wondering if you've had a mistake or a challenge that ended up teaching you something really, really valuable, gave you kind of like an epiphany or a ha-ha moment.
The thing with mistakes, so I would always tell my students, we welcome mistakes and accidents to happen so that you want those mistakes and accidents to happen because that is usually, in my experience, I discover a whole new technique or I discover a whole new look that then I integrate into my artwork. But I wouldn't have gotten there if I allowed myself to make the mistake, or if the mistake happened, instead of getting down on myself, I actually look at it with curiosity. So I love mistakes and accidents because not only in my experience, but I have watched it and witnessed it in my students when they do that. And it's almost exciting to say, wow, how did you do that? You
Yes,
know?
exactly. It's the unpredictable, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I've tried to mimic or repeat mistakes, and that gets a whole different thing. It's like, oh God, I can't do it again.
A great way of learning, I think.
It is. It totally is. It
Yeah,
is.
it
Yeah.
is. It's so much fun. And what kind of fun things are you dreaming about or planning for the future?
That's a good question. Um, wow. I feel like one of the things that I am working on right now, which is a little shift in creativity, is that I am working on writing a book right now. So it's a whole different mindset because you do have to integrate the linear part of your mind. But
Mm.
that has been sort of the goal that I'm focused on right now. And I'm hoping within the next year or so that I get that done.
Wow, that's lovely. What is the topic of the book going to be?
It's going to be about redefining how creativity can be in your life as more of a tool for wellness and achieving more wholeness in your life. Yeah.
Mm. Oh, that sounds like a beautiful book. I look forward to that coming out.
Now that I put it out there, I'm committed.
I know it's always a good thing to do, isn't it?
I know.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for your time today. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and I'm super excited for your workshop at Making Zen. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Kate, for having me. And this was lovely talking to you. And I look forward to making Zen.
Yes, me too. Getting our fingers creative,
Yes,
rubbing on some of that creative juice.
exactly.
Thank you for joining me in this creative journey. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And if you'd like to learn more about Making Zen, please check out the links below where you can find out all about the workshops and creativity, community, and all that kind of good stuff. Wishing you many happy hours of stitching.